welcome back to another edition of the NAI Lacrosse Podcast. Here with my new co-host, Tucker. If you want to introduce yourself real quick, Tucker.
Excited to be on here. My name is Tucker Belle. I am a senior captain here at Clarke University in Dubuque, Iowa, right along the Mississippi River. Originally from Southern California, but grew up most of my life in Northeast Ohio, in Kent, Ohio. Went to high school there, fell in lacrosse there, I guess you could say. Do a lot of media stuff. I am a weekly contributor to Lacrosse All-Stars. I'm the gear guy. So if you guys read any gear articles, chances are that's me behind a keyboard in our campus library, working on some gear stuff for you guys. Love all things lacrosse. I've been playing now going on 12 years, I would say 11 or 12 years. I've worked in every facet of the game in strange entrepreneurial endeavors. And you know how the whole thing goes there. And just really, love every facet of the game. And NAI lacrosse has been a great home for me for the past 3 going on 4 years, and then going to spend a 5th year in the NAI as well. So, lots of good things to talk about in the NAI. And so just happy to be here. Happy to be spreading the NAI love with you guys, talking to the few and far between that love this game.
Yeah, we're definitely happy to have you on board. So I guess what this podcast is going to be today, we don't have a ton, but we just kind of need to get you all caught up to speed on basically what happened in the off season, what we're looking forward to going into the season, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we to kind of get you guys started, we gotta, I guess the big news, man, is that the coaching carousel, I guess you could say, of the NAI has once again struck. We see new head coaches at Missouri Valley College, Marshall, Missouri, Aquinas up in Michigan, and Madonna up in Michigan. You want to get us started kind of on who these guys are? And I'll get some background here as you're talking. I'll do some research.
Yeah, definitely. And one I forgot to send you this show was actually Reinhardt.
Don't
know how I forgot that one, but I did. But yeah, so John Snow left Reinhardt after 4 national titles in a row, heading down to Coker Division II, South Carolina. So best of luck to Coach Snow, and I'm sure he'll build that up. And replacing him is Tyler Yelkin, another guy I'm pretty familiar with, local Georgia guy from Kennesaw State. So he's actually a very good coach, very underrated, X's and O's wise. He actually beat us a couple times early on at Reinhardt. So he can definitely coach some lacrosse. I guess the one thing that'll be interesting to see is how he recruits, coming from kind of an MCLA background, where I'm not entirely sure how they recruit to those programs, but it'll just be interesting to see how that crosses over to NAIA.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, from what I've seen of him so far at Reinhardt, mostly just social media posts and stuff, the guys that I know there, it seems like everything's, running normally to Reinhardt lacrosse from what I've seen, I suppose. I mean, it seems to be all hands on deck. I saw a little clip of some box lacrosse Reinhardt today, which looked interesting. I don't know what that was all about, but I was thinking, man, I love box lacrosse, and Reinhardt playing box lacrosse seems like a great mix in my mind. What do you know about him, coming from Kennesaw State? Because, he had quite the career there, I guess you could say. I mean, he was there for a little while.
Yeah, he was there for a number of years. He led them to the MCLA Division II tournament quite a few years. I want to say they reached the quarterfinals, I want to say twice, Sweet 16, 2 or 3 times as well. So the one thing I'd say you'd probably see different from Reinhardt going forward is he's a run and gun kind of guy. So it's going to be a lot more up tempo. It's going to be definitely more exciting, more fast paced.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you though. The recruiting side of MCLA to NAI, I feel like MCLA is kind of that weird gray area that it totally depends on how much your school supports an MCLA program and your recruiting side of things. So that's something new. The Reinhardt Army seems to be strong so far. But I guess we'll see as things go. It's always exciting to see the media coming out of there and all the different fun clips from all the guys and such. So excited. I'm sure you're excited, as being one who played on the team, what it's all about. So excited for you also to hear how that all goes.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving right along on the coaching carousel, we had Aquinas which hired Coach Klaber from a D2 school. Actually, it looks like they got him from Monmouth College.
Yeah,
I don't know a
yeah.
ton about them, but
Yeah, they are. So I actually got quite a history with this guy, which is the best part about it. He was at Monmouth in Illinois. They are about an hour away from here in Dubuque. So we traditionally, my first 2 years here, we would play them every year. I think they were D2, now they're D3. I'm a little confused on their past at times. I have him down as being near the past 4 seasons, but I can tell you he ran a very tight ship there. The guy knows lacrosse. He knows X's and O's. He knows how to keep his team in order. We were always impressed playing against them. They were kind of one of those teams that, even being, a smaller school, not NAI, they had a pretty deep roster every year there. So he knew how to recruit. We were actually surprised, here at Clarke and a lot of the other KCAC teams. I think, us being familiar with him at Monmouth, we were a little bit surprised to see him go the Aquinas route. I know Aquinas is a very well-funded, well put together program, great school, but same can be said for Monmouth. I mean, every time we would go there for an away game, it was a great setup and a great atmosphere. So a surprising thing there, but I'm really excited to see what he can do for Aquinas.
yeah, I am too. I think it'll be definitely a good situation. I mean, he's inheriting an offense that's lights out to, if they weren't already All-Americans, 2 players who are going to be All-Americans in the very near future at attack. So definitely a good situation to jump right into.
Yeah, amen to that.
Keeping it going with the WAC theme, we have Lords Madonna hiring former Lords assistant Coach Mata. Do you know anything about him?
Yeah, so I know a little bit about him. It looked like he was, last time I played Lords, actually would have been my freshman year. So it would have been 2019 season. They came down here. We played an indoor thing. I do remember him coaching a little bit. My good buddy, Cody Carson, was a grad assistant there for the past couple of years at Lords, and had nothing but good things to say about him. It sounds like, from what I understand, he was an assistant and then stepped in as associate head coach for the past season. So there's kind of an interesting coaching carousel that went on at Lords, it sounds like. So I'm not totally sure where he left Lords, but I know, it seems to be that he's very well equipped to head into Madonna. Also, you got to love that he's going into an area where he can still recruit a lot of his same base. The distance between Lords and Madonna is not that great. I mean, obviously it's a state over, but again, he can retain a lot of his recruiting territory, and keep kids going to the same distance from their home. So I think that's kind of a big factor for him probably in taking that job as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's always interesting when people kind of cross over inside of the WAC. Most of the conferences, the teams are fairly close together, but if you look at the WAC, if you drive more than an hour, you can pretty much hit the next campus over.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm sure it's a little bit strange how they are so close together, and I'm sure it raises the level of competition, and there's probably some pretty great rivalries, I'd imagine, among several schools in the WAC. I always am curious to see a coach play their former school that they left the year right afterward. That always makes for an interesting storyline. So I guess we'll see when Lords and Madonna match up. I know Madonna is in a little bit, I don't know if I'd say a rebuilding phase, but it seems like they were, powerhouse Madonna for a while. That might have been when you were playing against them, actually. Now it's a little different.
That offense was rocking and rolling. I'll tell you
that they were fast.
That was something fierce.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see where Madonna lacrosse heads. I think I could speak for both of us. We wouldn't be shocked if the Madonna of old returns, because they're in a great area with a lot of lacrosse in that area of Michigan. And we know it's pretty easy to keep kids in the area if you can offer them a scholarship and a good team to play for.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to our last team, this was one you'll definitely be the most familiar with. And Missouri Valley makes a new coaching hire straight from your backyard.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. Matt Heinzerling, Heinz boy. He was our assistant, our volunteer assistant. Really took on a big role as assistant though here as well. Excited for him to return to his alma mater. That guy loves Marshall, Missouri like nobody I know. Marshall, Missouri has Matt Heinz's heart. So I'm really excited to see where he takes Moval. I know he has a little bit of a tough road ahead right now, but I don't think it's anything he can't face. He's a great guy. He's a box teammate of mine, has been now for 2 seasons. Did a great job here, mainly coaching our defense. High energy guy, screams enough to lose his voice pretty often. So he's always an entertaining and a great coach. We were excited, to hear that he landed that. From an Iowa Dogfish box lacrosse perspective, I guess we should say now we have 3 head KCAC coaches on the Iowa Dogfish with Billy at Midland, Barnes here at Clarke, and Hines at Moval. So there's a little bit of an inner competition there as well. But no, I'm excited. I know, same thing kind of with Moval was they were in their prime, and if Barnes is listening to this, boy, I'm going to be hearing it in his office. But they were in his prime. They were in their prime when Barnes was there and that team was there, and they were a force to reckon with. And I remember playing them my freshman year when Barnes was still on that team, and it was an incredible team. So I hope to see Moval return to that era under Hines, and I think Moval hiring somebody who was there during that time is kind of a cool one too. And then their coach, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. Their former coach who stepped in, coaching both men's and women's. He heads up to LeMay. Yeah, he headed up to Brevard, I want to say, in North Carolina. So he's taking a different route, going the D3 route. So he's set sail away from NAI lacrosse and open the door for Hines to come in. So I mean, I'm sure you can speak to the Moval lacrosse of that era as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. They were kind of, I don't want to say we were rivals per se, but we've played them a couple times in our past, and they're always very good games. I mean, this game probably still gives me some nightmares. I didn't play in this one. I was just a freshman, but we were up, I want to say 2 goals with 45 seconds left. And I'm going to be honest, and if Coach Snow somehow listens to this, he's going to be furious that I'm saying this, but I'm pretty sure it was like a top 3 matchup, but we were convinced we were going to pound them. I mean, we watched them play Kennesaw State, who was a very good club team. It was pretty equal to us like the day or two before. And that was the worst thing we could have done, because I think Barnes didn't play in that game because they were saving him for us and another person. So Kennesaw State lit them up. So we're sitting there, oh, these guys are ranked like top 3, but they're not going to be on our level. So we go in there and they start taking it to us. We rally back. And then they end up scoring like 2 last-minute goals to just crush us on our home field. And it was just so devastating.
There you go. Like I said, you can speak to it, yeah.
NAIA lacrosse is honestly better when Missouri Valley's good. I will give them that for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. And boy, the KCAC has been completely shaken up, and we can address that in a minute with our kind of preseason ideas. But yeah, it's a different landscape even from when I came in 3 years ago. The teams are different. Obviously, we've added Morningside and Midland, and your top 3 teams have shifted around quite a bit. So we'll see, if Moval can climb back up to that reigning power they were. They have a cool campus in Marshall, Missouri, and you can tell lacrosse is a very important thing there. It's cool to see a little bit of tradition, much like Reinhardt and a lot of those teams that have been around and made big runs. So it's I guess time will tell, and we'll see where the Vikings of the purple and orange go next.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving along, I just want to get your thoughts. What do you think kind of about maybe the top 4, top 5 heading into this season? Because as we said, there's been a lot of new coaches, lots of players just graduating, kind of a new dawn, I guess, for the top portion of the NAIA.
Boy, it's you and I were just talking pre-show a little bit there about the how ironic NAIA lacrosse is, in the sense that you can have a program one year and it's gone the next, but the same can be said for how these teams compete. Selfishly from the KCAC perspective, I really think Columbia is building something phenomenal. We've seen it kind of the past 2 seasons now. I can tell you, playing against them, they have the atmosphere that will rattle anybody. They have people that stand behind their gate and heckle you and look up your stats. And so it's an atmosphere in Columbia, Missouri, but I can tell you that team is very much a force to be reckoned with. They recruit well. They bring more and more players in every year. The school supports the program. They're in a unique spot NAI wise that they have a huge online enrollment. So I'm sure the money trickles down to athletics. Broadcasting is great. It's well supported. But aside from that, just the pace and the way they play, I got Columbia up there. That's the hard part is, I'm going to say Kaiser. I got Kaiser up there for sure. Who doesn't want to go down to Florida and play lacrosse, especially the Canadians coming from the cold weather? So I got Kaiser up there. I got Columbia. I'm still going to put Reinhardt up there. I don't think that they get, shook from that top area there that quickly. And then I really think Indiana Tech, they proved themselves last year. They have year in, year out. Their coaching staff does a great job. Again, it's kind of a unique spot where they seem to recruit really well. You wouldn't think much of lacrosse in Indiana, but again, they do a really good job supporting that program. And then my kind of first two out, I'm going to pull the crazy one and I'm going to say William Penn, because I'm close enough to that program. I know guys in that program and I know it builds and builds and builds and builds. And for anyone who's not familiar with William Penn's athletic recruiting as a whole, they bring players in that make no sense from everywhere. So they have their recruiting down. They have the facilities down. I think William Penn only continues to get stronger. So I got William Penn. And then, I think Madonna could be a wild card. I'm not going to say Benedictine won't be there. I think Benedictine right now, we're kind of seeing what's going to happen there with them losing a few players after them playing their 5th year seasons. And then I think Cumberland's is there as well. So I would say, let's go Reinhardt, Indiana Tech, Kaiser, and Columbia. And then the first two out will have William Penn and Cumberland's.
Yeah, I definitely like that a lot. Mine's probably fairly similar. I don't know the exact order I'm going in because, if anyone follows me on Twitter, they saw preseason. I was a little down on Reinhardt. I think it was just kind of honestly just shocked that Snow was leaving, and I was a little upset about that. I can't lie.
I was thinking, what's going through your head? Yeah,
I'm glad he's moving on, but I was just like, wow, didn't see that one coming, and but yeah, so originally I had said I thought Kaiser would take it pretty easily this year. I've came down a little bit on that. I still think Kaiser's going to be one of the top teams for sure. That offense is something special. They're finally starting to play some defense the last couple of years. Indiana Tech still definitely getting better by the year. I think both of their goalies graduated, but I know they have a phenomenal freshman coming in if neither one of them is back. So I don't think that'll be too big of an issue. Who else did I have up there? I think Cumberland's is up there, but I did a little bit more research and I think they lost all of their starting polls.
Really?
So, and the stud LSM is not on the roster this year either.
Oh boy.
So that defense could be in for a little bit of trouble, but landing Nick Kubik, I guess, if you want to call it a transfer portal, we don't really have one in the IA, but from Lawrence Tech, that'll be big, especially winning a bunch of faceoffs, kind of keeping the defense off the field a little bit will be big early in the season while they kind of develop. So I guess I'd go Kaiser, Indiana Tech, Reinhardt, Cumberland's. I know people are probably saying that Homer picking all AAC teams, but and then kind of right outside, I see Columbia would be another interesting one. See what they can do. Do you know offhand how many players they're losing? I know they're a veteran squad last year.
Yeah, Columbia. Well, Columbia, from what I'm hearing, they've retained a lot of their guys. I can tell you defensively, just from the guys that I was matched up with consistently, most of them were younger guys. I think only one of them was a senior. So it sounds like defensively they retain a lot of what they had. But like you said, that offensive unit that was older, I think that they were seniors last year, if not 5th years already. So that's kind of a question. I do know number wise, they're in a good position, but it does seem to be a lot of new faces.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. As we said before, it's just crazy to see year in and year out, what'll happen to an NAIA roster. We've seen All-Americans just up and leave teams randomly, out of nowhere. And then other times you have every single guy on your roster comes back for a COVID year or something crazy. So especially in these times, you just kind of don't know what to expect. That's what I've kind of been looking at the past couple of days. I've been glad to see a couple more teams that's like publish their rosters, because that's something I've been looking at the past couple of weeks. Just kind of trying to get a feel of where we're at going in.
Yeah, it is. It's that waiting period where you have those tabs open on your computer and you're refreshing the roster, hoping the SID opens or publishes a roster. But it is right. Like you said, it's a strange game that we love, in the sense that you never know who's going to show up and you never know who's going to disappear. Guys might make the dash to D1, just like the guy from Ambrose went to Albany. I remember that guy guarding me. He was a great player, but that's the unique scenario. Most of the time we see guys either go to other NAI schools or go to D2 or D3 schools. But I think your top teams, they're normally in a pretty good spot to retain their guys. I will say, I think geographically speaking, we're in an interesting time too. I know here in the KCAC, we had a lot of guys, go back closer to home during COVID and transfer out, just location wise. And then the same thing again, you have more teams popping up in more desirable places, warmer areas, California, Florida. And so you might have a guy who's got a 5th year left and be like, hey, I want to go play in California for a 5th year. I mean, you can't blame him. Like, it is what it is. So with all these teams being added, I think that's the biggest thing with the expansion. We don't really know what to expect from any of the expansion teams.
Yeah, and I guess if you want to just give us a quick little rundown, I know you had the website up earlier. It looks like we have 3 and then maybe even a possible 4th one. Then me and you were just like, wait, they're fielding a team? All right, I guess let's run it.
So, yeah, it's a very strange thing. Yeah, like you said before this, shout out to the Growth blog, always keeping us up to date on teams, popping up left and right. Obviously, we see a lot of women's teams being added all over the place, but on the men's side, it's kind of an interesting thing. One that I have more details on already. That's a really interesting one. And there's actually one I didn't even mention to you pre-show I forgot about, which might even be more surprising to you. But the first one is Westcliff University in Irvine, California. Not too far from where I was actually born. Gorgeous area, very desirable to go there. It looks like most of their roster right now is West Coast players, so they're recruiting majority in the area from what I can tell. Their head coach is Kevin Abreu. Hope I'm saying that last name correct if you're listening, man. But he was the former head coach at Notre Dame de Namur. And they are a D2 program, I believe now. They were MCLA, I think, for a long time. Very, very good program. They competed with a lot of teams across levels. So it seems like a great hire at Westcliff to pick up Kevin. Very interested rather to see where he takes that program. From my research, Westcliff University is majority an online university. It seems to be athlete heavy. There is a campus, which is a very gorgeous campus, I should say. They have a basketball court in the middle of campus. I mean, come on now. Might have a pool, who knows? But needless to say, they got a beach, right? That's the thing. Anywhere in California, you're sitting at a good recruiting spot, to say the least. But they do. They have a roster, I think, of about 20 right now, from what I can tell. Good number to start out with your first year. They open the schedule though in a little bit of a strange way. They open up with what appears to be 3 club teams. One seems to be a team that might be going NAI or is already NAI. We'll address them in a second. And then right after those, they jump right into Kaiser, Weber, SCAD, and William Penn. So that's tough.
Yeah, that's a bit, I don't want to say ambitious is the word I'm looking for, but I mean, they're going to learn what they have year one. I mean, flat out. If they can play, they can play. If not, I mean, it might be a strong building year.
But let's talk. Let me read the schedule to you, how this works. So like I said, from what I can tell, majority of an online university, it might make travel a whole lot easier. They are not home at all. And there's no other NAI teams in California right now. So they go to Florida. They go to Kaiser. Then they're in Florida again. They're at Weber. Then they go to SCAD in Savannah, Georgia. Then they immediately fly out to William Penn, Morningside, St. Ambrose, Mount Vernon in Ohio. Then they're at Dearborn. Then they're at Lourdes. And then they're at Concordia. They are gone the entire season.
I mean, honestly, I would say that kind of sounds nice, but when you're leaving California, I'm like, is that a good thing?
For the snow, right?
But no, I mean, I guess the one thing I will say is like, as much as they're traveling, it does kind of make sense though, because like typically, if we were going to play on the road at Kaiser, coming down from Reinhardt, Scad's like 4 hours or so. Kaiser's a lot further, but I mean, it's on the Scad's on the way, so we would typically hit up Scad, then go to Kaiser, and then maybe T-Dub on the way home or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, it does make sense kind of playing teams in the same area.
It's I should also mention the game times are very strange. So I think we're uncovering something very interesting with Westcliff lacrosse. Westcliff, if you're listening, shout out. You guys are doing something interesting. I don't know of many NAI teams that do this much travel or have the budget to do this much travel. So that's an unusual thing. But their game times, most of the games are at 10 a.m., which is very unusual. I don't know if that's the transition from California time. Still, that's very early. And then we just have a slew of very odd mixed together times, which makes me think that they are literally going travel stop to travel stop.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess as you pointed out, being an online school, maybe they have a little bit more flexibility where, like, I've definitely played in some daytime games and I was not a fan of them just because you knew you were going to have almost no parents there, no students there, and it was just going to be empty bleachers and maybe the occasional parent who's like working from home or something. So, I mean, I guess with their class schedule, it's not going to affect them. Also, no opposing crowds, so
you're
not going to get any.
I was going to say, but again, either way, they're doing something pretty unconventional for NAI lacrosse. And I don't think this wasn't a team that until they showed up on the William Penn schedule, I actually didn't even know this team was playing a season, much less had that many guys in a roster. So kind of cool to see that just blossom. And they have a pretty cool logo. I should add, it looks to be like a centurion or something like that. I'm a fan. I like the look. They're working on something interesting. Anyway, Westcliff, excited to see you guys in the NAI. We then kind of moved down from Westcliff, and we have, this is the one I didn't tell you about, University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy in Missouri.
I saw the ad posting for that one, and I was like, is this, at first I honestly, like, this is gonna sound bad, I thought it was kind of like one of those things where I've seen some phony universities like post ads for lacrosse coaches before, and this happened to me last year where I almost applied to one down here and turned out to be like a fake program and everything. I was like, what the heck? But then I did some more research and it's legit.
It is. It's in Missouri. Clarke actually plays them in several sports. I know women's volleyball always has a tournament down there in Missouri at the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy. According to the Growth blog, they plan to have lacrosse going, men's and women's, in 2023. I don't know much about the school. I do know that their logo looks just like the University of Northern Iowa, and we all thought that's who they were because their colors and logo are identical. So that's an interesting thing. But again, you have a school that's specifically focused on health sciences and pharmacy. You guarantee you're going to attract lacrosse players with one of those two things. So those specific guys.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I kind of wonder, like, it's kind of a double-edged sword where, like, you know, you're going to get some people, but then you're also probably totally going to alienate the other, if that makes sense.
True. Yeah, the creative arts and stuff is kind of off the table there. But that, you know, to be honest with you, with them being in Missouri, there's conversation of the Heart of America Athletic Conference, which, you know, Clarke is traditionally a part of. Most of the KCAC teams are Heart of America teams. And there's a conversation about Heart of America adopting lacrosse and KCAC lacrosse essentially disappearing like very quickly. And if this team were to add men's lacrosse, that's another team that would go towards that in Missouri as well. So that would support the shift from one conference to another, or a mega conference, one of the two. So an interesting one there. All right, so here's one I think that you and I have talked about a little bit before and that you've been following. Thomas More in Covington, Kentucky. They are right over the bridge from Cincinnati. Cincinnati being a pretty big lacrosse area in Ohio right now, not too far from me. several powerhouse schools there. They are already recruiting a lot of those kids from that school, and their coach has a history with that school. What are your thoughts on them? They announced that they're planning to go D2 as a school here pretty soon, but I haven't seen much since then that if they're actually going to do it or not, because they have put up some pretty good records across every sport in the NAI. So the question now is, do they go D2 or do they stay NAI? Either way, right now they're NAI lacrosse. So we got to talk about them. What are your thoughts on Thomas More? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where I was super excited to see another team not too far from kind of Georgia, another Southeastern team, if you want to call it. And I was a little upset that I saw they were leaving right off the bat. They're like, hey guys, we're here. We're building a team, recruiting well. By the way, we're going D2. I was just like, all right, sick. Well, we'll enjoy you for the year or two. Maybe we have you. But I mean, as you said, they hit the ground hard recruiting. It looks like, I don't know. I haven't looked lately to see if they have a schedule this year, but I'm fairly confident they're playing this year. And if not this year, next year. So, I mean, they could be a pretty decent team. I mean, the way they're recruiting, I would not be shocked if they have close to 30 guys already.
Yeah, let me see if I can. I'm looking to see if I can find a schedule right now. Yeah, so they don't even have a schedule tab right now on their lacrosse website. That's interesting. They also don't have a roster.
Lacrosse.
Right. We're gonna get it the week before. Nothing against the Thomas More SID, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just decide they're not playing until they go D2. There's a bunch of questions there, but they have been putting out commitment graphic after commitment graphic left and right from guys from very, very good club teams, players that I'm actually surprised are crossing over into Kentucky instead of going like the Cleveland State route. So they're getting a lot of good players. They seem to be a pretty well put together university, or college rather. Again, their athletics across the board are really good. They're in the top 10 in several sports. And I know their football team is really phenomenal. They just built a brand new stadium. I did see that. So I kind of hope Thomas More stays NAI, because they would have a cool little spot down there. They'd probably be a powerhouse team. I bet the Cumberland's Thomas More clash would be pretty sick.
That would be nice. I would enjoy watching that, especially if I kind of wonder what would happen if they do, and then kind of if we get a couple more teams down here in kind of like the fringe AAC, and then I think it's the Mid-America Conference as well. They don't have men's. I'm pretty sure they have women's. I know like Reinhardt's football team and a couple other the local ones have played in both at different times, it seems like. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what would happen with the AAC if a couple more add. And then I saw there's also possibly another conference coming in Florida as well.
Yeah. I would not be surprised, because Florida's got Weber now. They've got Kaiser. They've got a whole slew of teams. Florida lacrosse is popping. I can tell you from IBLA Nationals playing down there, Florida lacrosse is a fun atmosphere, and their presence on the NAI side can be felt across the state of Florida. So kind of curious to see what happens there. Two more schools here. One is going to probably have a conversation. The first one is Multnomah. I think it's Multnomah University. I could be completely wrong. I've never heard of it. Let's be honest. When we look at NAI lacrosse, sometimes people know the team. Sometimes they have absolutely no idea where the school is. This school is in Oregon. They have it listed that they are adding men's and women's lacrosse for the 2022 season. I see it on their website. They are actually supposed to play Westcliff. That's one of the teams on Westcliff's schedule. So that means that this team does have a lacrosse team this year, which is interesting. That's kind of the weird little nugget there. I thought they were a club team until I looked them up and I realized that they are NAI in Oregon. So there's another West Coast team, Western Coast, I guess you could say. That's a little bit unusual. Do you know anything about these guys? What are your thoughts on Oregon?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a ton. I did know they were fielding a team. I remember seeing kind of getting a Twitter notification they had followed me and that it was an NAI team along like maybe last year. And I was like, oh, okay, this is something to keep in the back of my mind. And then I kind of didn't really pay too much thought to it until, as you said, we saw it kind of pop up on the Westcliff schedule. We're sitting there. Okay, I guess there's two out there. Well, maybe if we can get two or three more, we can get a conference started. And then, I don't know, it'll definitely be interesting because, I mean, if you get a couple teams out west, maybe we get a couple more Midwest. I think Idaho College is actually technically NAI, like they're a powerhouse club team. But
I was recruited.
If we could kind of get it going full country, that'd be pretty sick.
I would 100% agree. I would love to see more teams pop up. Just doing some research here on Multnomah, whatever. Multnomah University, Multnomah, something like that. They have a really gorgeous university. It seems to be right along a river, gorgeous landscape. So it'll be cool to see lacrosse there. I don't know what part of Oregon they're in, but they are in a very mountainous looking region. So that's an interesting twist there as well. I agree. College of Idaho, COI, they're an interesting one that they are technically an NAI lacrosse team, but they've played traditionally only MCLA teams, and they've competed in the MCLA like a lot of old NAI teams did. When I was recruited there, they were an NAI team, again, playing MCLA. They offered to, get me out there and put me on quite an awesome recruiting trip. So I know that they do a good job recruiting. Their coach just took over, I saw, as the residence life director at the school. So they have a new head coach at College of Idaho. Maybe that's something we'll touch on in a later episode because I don't know enough about them, to be honest with you. But there's another Oregon team, or an Idaho team near Oregon, I guess you could say. And then lastly, I guess we could shift to Corbin University or Corbin College. I don't know which one in Oregon. They have women's lacrosse now. They added it recently. They've been saying they were going to add men's lacrosse for a while, and I think we're kind of in the waiting game right now to see if Corbin adds lacrosse. They do add a lot of interesting sports. They added beach volleyball. They were competing with like University of Oregon and a bunch of D1 teams in their beach volleyball schedule. So they do a lot of cool stuff athletically. And again, a gorgeous campus at Corbin. So would love to see men's lacrosse hit there as well. And then lastly, this is the one we were talking about, Lyon College in Arkansas. There are no other college lacrosse teams that I know of in Arkansas that are official varsity programs.
Nothing.
What do you know about Lyon College men's lacrosse?
This is kind of what we were talking about pre-show. Like, I try to follow it as much as I can. Obviously, I kind of have to at this point, but this one stunned me. You were like, "There's one in Arkansas," and I was like, "Are you sure?" But yeah, I mean, heck, the more the merrier. The one thing I want to say about the new teams is, especially the ones kind of that have been built the past couple of years, like the William Penns, the Webbers, St. Andrews coming back. I've been really impressed how they've managed to like stick around, and like they're not just going for like the low kind of tier. They're coming in. Hey, we're gonna be mid-tier year 1, year 2, year 3. We're gonna be gunning for tournaments, stuff like that. So it's been kind of a big bit of a shock, but it's been really refreshing to see teams like kind of. Women's has grown exponentially numbers wise, and men's is kind of, I don't want to say struggling, but like we were finally at a point where we've kind of gotten rid of all the teams who just, not to keep it too PG, but kind of half-assing it.
Asbury College.
Exactly. So it's kind of nice to see teams adding and kind of coming in committed right away. I guess before we go, I have one like final question for you. What do you think about like, when teams add, what do you kind of think is the most important thing for them in kind of year 1?
I honestly think the most important thing to create, especially an NAI lacrosse program year 1, is your coach. You have to have a coach who wants to stay there for at least a few years and is willing to build it. I can speak kind of off the cuff. I know here at Clarke, our program, I think now is on year 8. And we were started by a coach who came here for several months, recruited a great class, and then left to go to the D3 school a mile down the road. So he stayed in the same house, I'm sure, and he made his commute 1 minute shorter. And he is still there. He has built a phenomenal program at that school, but I know, speaking from Clarke's perspective, it was damaging to the growth of the program to have a great coach and then lose them really quickly. So I think the most important thing to starting an NAI lacrosse program is to have a good head coach early on. If you can find a guy who is from the area or knows the area, I would say I would say even better, especially speaking from a Midwest perspective. If you don't have somebody that knows the Midwest or has an affection for it, it's going to be hard to keep somebody in, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, any of these places for more than a year, because I mean, winter is terrible. It's harder to recruit a lot of the time. You just have to get creative. So I think the biggest thing is having a coach who's willing to stay for a while, willing to build something. I mean, you and I see it left and right. We see programs start and we see a head coach there for a little while and then just he's gone. And that can really tank a program. And I think not only that, but having school support, having a university or college behind you as a program. A lot of schools add sports just for, hey, let's get more enrollment numbers. Let's bring kids in from a different area. Let's boost certain majors. And that's fine. You know it's going to happen in college sports. They do it a lot with football. But I think you have to have an athletic director and an athletic department that understands lacrosse and is willing to realize that it's probably not going to be very much fun from the start. I mean, we look at a lot of these teams. I think specifically of like Taylor in Indiana. I went out and played Taylor at Taylor. It was the field was very rough. The crowd was awesome. The people were fun. My parents came down for the game, but you could tell that they had started in a rough spot, but they were really building a program because they had somebody who knew the area, who was familiar with lacrosse in the Fort Wayne area. And so I think that's really what I go to, is having a good coach. What do you think? What are your thoughts on programs adding and what's the key?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much summed it up pretty good. The thing I would say is kind of maybe what not to do would be kind of something like how Union kind of joined and left and joined. And I think part of the problem they had specifically like year one is, and no disrespect to this coach, I've heard really good things about him like previously in previous stops, but they've kind of targeted older coaches, which nothing against them, but I mean, sometimes, especially in the college ranks, playing for someone in their 60s or kind of that area can be a little bit tough, especially when you're trying to recruit 18-year-old kids to, I mean, let's be real. Most of our programs aren't, except for maybe like Kaiser and SCAD living in like really populated cities. Like most of them are kind of in the middle of nowhere a little bit. So you got to really target the kids who are just looking to play lacrosse, honestly. So for someone older, I could see where that could be a bit of a tough sell. So, I mean, I think getting a young coach, energetic, ready to hit the recruiting trail hard, and I don't want to say be a friend to the guys, but someone who can relate to the guys pretty well is a key. Yeah. And I think year one, you don't have to win half your games. You don't even have to win a third of your games. But I mean, I think you do have to be competitive in at least some games year one. You can't go out there, schedule a bunch of top 10 teams, lose 20-0 every game. Kids are going to leave. They're going to get discouraged. So, I mean, scheduling at least a couple games where you can compete is big, and just show them that you care also.
True that. That's a good point. It is. It's you have to have some type of morale in your program for it to continue. That's a very good point. Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, honestly, I think we covered it all for y'all. So, I mean, once again, welcome, Tucker. I think it's a great addition to have you here with us. Someone
Appreciate it.
Loves the NAIA as much as the rest of us. And assuming we can get this video posted, like with video too, like that'll kind of be a nice little touch for people.
They'll be seeing our faces. If you're watching this right now and you're seeing us, well, that means the video worked. If you're listening to this and you don't see any video, well, I don't think the video worked. It's kind of where we're at. We're going to get it figured out. We're going to get you video at some point if you don't see it now. We're going to bring you as much NAI lacrosse as we can. We're both connected to the game in different ways, in different areas of the country. But the commonality is a passion for the growth of NAI. And I think we talked about several teams adding to that growth today. So kind of exciting stuff.
Yep. See y'all next time.